Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. The topic for tonight's discussion is Zimbabwe is a failed state. Do we even know we are a failed state? Much less what to do about it. I think the first reaction to that, to me, would be I don't think we do. Yes, people can say we know we are a failed state because we are poor. Poor is a relative term. And if you are poor and you are not doing anything about it, then you don't know you're poor. Because when you've got a continent, a country in this day and age, and you find millions of our people are still living in grass-thatched huts, to me, it speaks volumes. How can somebody live in such a structure in this day and age? Why? Have they not seen what other countries are doing, what other nations are doing? And in this day and age where you don't have to travel to America to see how the Americans are living. You see films about America and their countries and the level of development. And you go back to your rural area and you go to such a structure. It beggars belief. I really cannot accept that we do know that we are a failed state, let alone what to do about it. We don't know that we are a failed state. That would be my first reaction to that. Welcome to the program, Ben.
Good day to you and good day to everybody. Now, for me, I always hear people out there saying, give us a solution, give us a solution. And I think you have asked a very good question to say, do they even know what the problem is? This is why, and I will give you examples. This is why you find, because we in Zimbabwe, we have a problem, but we don't know what it is. Whoever comes up with some, dubious or outrageous solution, we are quick to jump with it and run with it. For example, Comrade Geza, he came up with his own solution. Let us put Chiwenga as the sole candidate out there. He's going to bring change. Now everybody is singing, Comrade Chiwenga, VP Chiwenga, General. But we know what this guy is all about. We know what he has done. We have Chamisa on the other hand, who comes up with funny decisions. And the people are running with him. He's untouchable. He's the solution. In fact, they've said he's the best foot forward. And we know he dragged people through a meaningless 2023 election in which he lied that he was going to win big and that ZANU-PF were never going to mess around with the election. So we are finding ourselves that we have a people that I think want solutions but really do not understand what the problem is. And let me try and help. I think our biggest problem is that we have failed from the very beginning we have failed to find our path towards democracy. The very thing that we were fighting a war for, we did not fight, and we could not fight, and probably we do not even know. And that's very, very unfortunate.
Well, one of the things that I've said about living in a mud hut is that as much as one can say the voter themselves are to blame, but even the leaders themselves, if the leader had any vision at all, I don't think he would find it in his heart to go and build such a monstrous structure like Mugabe's blue roof when the people who voted for him are living in a mud hut. It doesn't make any sense. If you are coming from the people, and there's no doubt that ZANU-PF leaders have boasted of how they've come from the people. In fact, if anything at all, ZANU-PF as a party is the one that has always claimed that it's rooted in the people. And indeed, the rural areas, the leaders considered it to be their strongholds. So here you are, the very people who gave you the political power are living in a mud hovel. And you go and build for yourself and a few of the ruling elite such a monstrosity of a structure. The blue roof to me makes a mockery of what we are. How can you build such a structure? You know, I don't know how many rooms it has. The cost, some people have put it at 3 to 4 billion US dollars. And now the whole structure is, the whole mansion is derelict because his wife is hardly ever there. And interestingly enough, his children are not living there either. So most of the time, it is empty. And the maintenance of such an expensive structure must be, I don't know, 100,000 US dollars a year. And if it's not properly maintained, it will not last that long either. This is where I say Zimbabwe is a failed state and we don't even know about it. Even the leaders themselves do not know, much less what to do about it.
I mean, you know, we have to call it as it is and, you know, look back into history. You know, ZANU-PF has been able to manipulate people with very, very little things. Where you would find, you know, ZANU-PF would want a vote, something as critical as a vote, something that, you know, defines a future. They give away maybe a plastic pot or you know, plastic plate and a cup, and song and dance is made about it. Nowadays, it's now a frenzy where ZANU-PF, when it holds rallies, it gives away chicken, chicken and chips, and that there is viewed as treasure to some people. In fact, now they have given it a name, sapatina, food that is fit for angels. Just mere chips and chicken. I mean, we've got a video of him, of a guy, that actually cherished such a thing. Maybe you could play, and we could show the world this is what, it takes to get,
tirimo
to win.
State House chitodya chicken in
Kule.
kudya kwako kwakaprofitwa
Hello?
kare nababa John ndokudya kwakanzi sapatina kudya kwakanaka kudya kundirozi tiripo paState House unogona kutofa usina kumbosvika paState House
Kutosunungurwa izvozvi kubva.
asi siripo takatotsika mota dzedzi dzarikona iState House ndo patiri pamba penyika kunamata kwakanaka chipostori chakanaka sapatina tichidya zvedu kudya kwakanaka tiri kutodya pamasowe panapa but tiri kudya nyama imi mukwenyu hazviko asi tiri pano pamasowe paState House nhasi ndo patiri kunamatira nhasi tiri kudya nyama namata mwari uyu akanaka baba Johani wakauya nechinamato ichi kuvanhu vatema wakagona nokuti zvaitwa nevarungu chete asi nhasi uno tisu tiri kuzviita vana vabvudze popi hatina matei wakomana.
Now, Wilbert, here we are. There's a saying that goes, you can give $1 million to a fool, he will only become $1 million fool. We have given voting rights to such a guy, and there are millions out there. Do we expect, us to do any better, or, when you have, because we know that democracy will only work if you understand it, if the people are knowledgeable. And clearly this guy, I don't think he is knowledgeable of what a failed state is and what Zimbabwe could have been, because he is content, he is happy, he's achieved a milestone by eating chicken and chips in the State House, then going back home to his wife and children with nothing. So it becomes a problem when we have millions out there that really do not know what constitutes free, fair, and credible elections, what democracy is, what is expected from leaders. These are critical things. These are critical ingredients for us to move ourselves from being a failed state into something, bigger and greater. So it's clear when we have millions of people like this, and where Zimbabwe is, I think it kind of matches.
One of the things that has been said about Zimbabwe is that the country has now been independent for the last 45 years. And in that time, we cannot say that we are a failed state because of ZANU-PF. Because the argument is, surely in that period, you must have had an opportunity to end the dictatorship. The question then is, why have you failed to end the dictatorship? And I think the truth of the matter must be said here that we did have the opportunity to end the dictatorship. the best chance we had to implement the democratic reforms, which would have ended the ZANU-PF dictatorship, was during the GNU of 2008 to 2018. Unfortunately, not even one token meaningful democratic change was implemented. Why? Well, Mugabe bribed the incoming MDC leadership with the trappings of high office, and they forgot all about their task, their number one task, which was to implement the democratic reforms. There is no way one can excuse the MDC leadership for continuing to participate in flawed elections, so flawed, so illegal, that even they themselves have admitted the process is flawed and that the only logical thing to do was to stop participating. And yet, they've continued to participate out of greed. So, in other words, we have the opposition, we've been elected to carry out the democratic reforms, and instead of implementing the democratic reforms, they have in turn sold out. Ever since the GNU, the 2008 to 2013 GNU, the opposition have participated in flawed elections out of greed. They've lied to the people, telling them that they have got the ability to implement reforms, and they've plugged all the vote rigging loopholes so that the opposition, ZANU-PF, will not be able to rig the elections. And the people have participated in these flawed elections because they believed the idiotic lies. I'll just play a video clip of Professor Jonathan Moyo talking about ZEC and the reason why we are saying the election process is so flawed, so illegal, the only logical thing to do is to stop participating.
Chigumba is the mother of the rigging, and Malaba is the father of the rigging, endorsed what the mother was doing. It is actually scandalous. You see, ZEC is not supposed to be controlled by any authority.
Yeah, it's supposed to be
independent. It is an independent constitutional body. In fact, independent commission. It's a Chapter 12 institution. But ZEC did not run anything important. It never did. The computers were run by AFRICOM. The registration, accreditation, and so forth were run by a CIO company. So between the CIO and the army, they ran the processes, the operations, using their instruments. Either Matsanga, who is actually active, she's employed. She joined the, she was not joined, she was seconded to the electoral body in 2008 as a divisional intelligence officer. Now she is a director in the CIO. As we speak right now, she's a director, and she was congratulated and rewarded for rigging the 2018 election. And she was given a house in Borodale, a posh mansion in there. So there is a serious problem that whereas on paper, ZEC is supposed to be an independent constitutional body that runs elections transparently, efficiently, and impartially. No, it doesn't. It doesn't because it does not even itself run. The elections are run for ZEC by the Securocrat.
In other words, we are a failed state because we have failed to hold free, fair, and credible elections. And it is clear that we don't even know what constitutes free, fair, and credible elections. This is more shocking given that this is the 21st century. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We only have to apply it. And for anyone at all, with at least 11 years of formal education, to fail to realize that Zimbabwean elections are a mockery of democracy beggars belief.
You know, in closing, I would want to say for 45 years, we've been doing our thing. And our thing has been to participate in rigged elections with the advice of the opposition winning big, you know, at election time. And this has failed because, I mean, 45 years is a very long time. Surely we could have come to our senses to say, hold on a minute. These guys have been promising us so much, but delivering very little. And the worst part is we have been advised by the international community, guys, don't participate in elections up until you guys fix your election process. We have not listened to that. We have been doing our thing. And our thing has led us into a series of failures. And hence now we are stamped as a failed state, of which we are. Doesn't it now make sense to listen to advice or to take the other, the other side? Cast your net on the other side if you're not catching fish on the other. Try something else. It's 45 years too late, but it should be done. We really need to know that our participation in rigged elections is only giving a stamp for ZANU-PF to continue. So in essence, we are shooting ourselves in the foot. We keep looking for solutions that we want, but not solutions that we need. Solutions have been given. Fix your election process. Get free, fair, and credible elections. Reform a broken system. Only then can you get a better Zimbabwe. This is the advice that we have been given by SADC and other international, the whole international community. It's time we admit that on ourselves we have failed and we need help. And help is being given each and every time. It is all up to us to accept and get ourselves out of this mess. It's all, at the end of the day, we make the decisions. If we are comfortable with what we have, which is the ZANU-PF burden, then so be it.
Thank you very much. I'd like to just remind everybody we are here on this platform from 6 UK time or 8 o'clock Zimbabwean time. And on Saturdays and Sundays, you can also join us and give us your views. And the link is shown at the bottom of your screen there. And to come back to the original statement that Zimbabwe is a failed state. Do we even know we are a failed state? I think the only thing I can say is, well, to start with, we don't know that we are a failed state. But now that some of us know, if we are ever going to get out, we have to come back to this topic and ask ourselves again and again and again, because that is the only way we are going to get out of this mess. No one is going to solve this problem for us. That much we can be certain of. The world is so competitive out there. Each one is looking after themselves. And indeed, one of the reasons why we are a failed state and a failed continent is that outsiders have taken advantage of our weakness. And they will exploit us for their own advantage. And the more we lag behind, the harder it's going to be to catch up. Because there's no doubt about it, that with today's technology, you look at the mobile phone, for Africa to be able to produce such a kit will take a lot. And the temptation would be to import. So catching up will not be easy. All we'll be doing is being just a consumer without producing any of it. And yet there is no country out there in the world that has emerged above upper middle income status without becoming innovative, competing in the big market. Look at countries like South Korea. They have become world players because they are able to compete in producing some of the basic needs that we want. Things like mobile phones, cars, and so forth. Other nations who have confined themselves to producing food or at best making clothes, they've remained at best upper middle income. We have got a long way to go. We are a failed state, but we can dig ourselves out of it by coming back to the problem. Why are we a failed state? And at the present moment, there seems to be very little interest along those lines. And as long as that remains, we will remain a failed state. Thank you very much. Have a good night.